All right, the Georgia Bulldogs are a week into it. Kirby Smart talking to the media today, and Ryan Curley and everybody else got a chance to take a look at practice. Ryan, Kirby was pretty positive today. What did you make of practice, though?
It was a little bit different. Normally, when we walk in there, they're all split up into position groups, kind of doing some warm up drills. This time we walk in and the offense and is going against the defense, and they're doing kind of like a halfback toss drill, halfback screen drill. So you immediately get to see them working on that for a few minutes, and then they teetered off, did some more vanilla stuff with their position groups, just a little bit more
Are
vanilla
you
than
not
last
wanting the
week.
national championship game plan? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
no, they're
spring.
not.
It's the fourth practice.
They're not giving us the recipe right now. But yeah, I felt like, I was looking for different stuff this week. I spent a lot more time, I spent a lot more of my time, I would say, watching the defense really last week. And I spent more time watching the quarterbacks, watching the receivers, watching the tight ends. The defense was on the inside today. And so some of those position groups were just really far away, hard to make out what they're really doing over there. So that's what we were dealing with today. But energy was high, I would say.
Yeah, and it's colder now than it's been this for a little bit of time.
It's been colder the last couple of days. Carson Beck rocking sleeves today. And I don't remember ever seeing him wear sleeves this past season. Did even when it was cold, like
Uh,
in November.
at Tech,
So
I
that was the
don't
first
think
time I'd
he
seen that.
at Tech. I don't think he did. Tennessee was not that cold. Um, they played in white every game from. No, they played in red against the Jackets, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They did.
Sorry about that. But every other game they were in white quite a bit at the end of the season. Florida State, Alabama, Tennessee. So three of the four games they closed with were in white. Of course, if they won the Alabama, they'd have been in red from that point forward on. They did not. Um, some discussion today about Oscar Delp and Kirby saying, "Hey, he's not trying to be Brock Bowers. He's not Brock Bowers." And then some superlatives about Georgia's brand new center. I don't know if you want to talk about either of those two things, or I mean, we can stick with the Carson thing too. We're in spring. We know what Carson Beck can do, and you
Mhm.
know, the proof is going to be in the pudding in September, October, November, December. What are his receivers doing that give you confidence that Georgia can be as explosive as it's been?
Well, I just think that they have a lot of really good ones. I think it
They do.
starts there. You know, right now, and I was just about to talk about that guy. You had it pulled up to Arian Smith.
Oh, I didn't purposely do that. Go ahead.
What what is one of the things about Arian Smith is the thing around him is that all he is a speed guy. Doesn't run routes as well, doesn't catch as well. I think he's been doing that pretty well. It's practice, right? And it's only a few minutes, but he's making plays in practice that I've never seen him in the game. Reaching out and getting balls and staying on his feet. Starting to look a little bit more fluid, right? This is a track guy that's kind of converted into a wide receiver. So maybe year five is when you really strike gold with a guy like Arian Smith. But for the last, this is what, the fourth season I've gotten to see
Well, he's
practices in.
he's Tate Ratledge in Carson Beck's class. So
Hmm,
2000, or sorry,
20.
20, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is
Yeah.
1, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is year five,
Yeah.
as you said. Let me throw this in here real
Well,
quick.
but
Hold on.
what I mean is year four of me being able to watch them in practice.
Oh,
And
oh, I got you.
those two have always had a lot of chemistry in practice. Beck
Well,
and Arian
Arian, listen.
Smith.
All due respect to Arian, I would say this if he were sitting right here. It's not how this works, though. And if he wants to come on the show, that's great. But he's just got to do it during the games. That's
Yeah.
all. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think that's really anything shocking to say. Dog Post is not about pumping guys up too much that don't deserve it or do, I guess. And we're not about running people down too much. I see that sometimes from folks that cover a team. I'm not sure I understand that. Our job is to call it as we see it, not
Mm.
to kind of go on too long. And I would say that with Arian Smith, he has tremendous potential to be a very big deal, receiver for Georgia, and not just a play here or there or a magical play, if you want to call it magical, like he did against Ohio State, a game changing play. But he can be really dangerous for them. And I'm going to throw it
Yeah.
back to you in a second here. Let me just say this as I've got everybody. Listen, if you sign up for our newsletter, the link is right down below. You'll enter into a drawing to get this. There's only about 130 of these on Earth. It's a Keely Ringo sign Dawg instruction. Pick it up today. And I do think, Ryan, that Arian Smith, but he's not consistent. I mean, excuse me, he's not been consistent. And doing it at Butts-Mehre and on McWhorter, doing it on the fields at practice. He's just got to do it in the games, and he's got to do it consistently in the games. I can remember in Ladd McConkey's 3 years of really playing, he had one what I would call bad game, and that was against Kent State. Can you remember a bad game for Ladd McConkey beyond that?
No.
I can remember games where Ladd didn't do anything.
Too much, yeah.
That. Yeah, but I mean that's a receiver. If you can get 2 games from Arian Smith where he's going for 85 or more yards with a touchdown, maybe 2 games like that, that'd be a really good, he could just win them those games.
Yeah. Moments like the Ohio State where you're scooting by people, and you've seen it, a few times throughout the last few years. Someone that I just feel that they need to, just figure out how to make that consistent, and maybe that is an Arian problem. But it might
not just be him, Ryan. I think Carson's got to be better on the deep balls. I mean, if we're just going to be critical if we're just going to enter that phase of the video, I think Carson
the next
could be better
2 minutes, all criticisms.
Let's do it, man. I got to get my hair cut. You look like your weight is coming on. Hater Ryan we can't have Hater Ryan and overweight Ryan. We got to pick.
Wow.
Yeah, we can't do both. Too many.
Calling out my weight right here.
Too many trips to insomnia gives you it's tasty treats, but yeah, you're doing all right.
I don't know. You see that? Where's yours at?
I want to see Carson connect on some of those big balls. He had a ball against Missouri or Kentucky or Ole Miss. I can't remember, but it was a big game in Athens to Ladd, and the ball was thrown short. And I think that would have been a touchdown had it been thrown correctly. The ball dealt. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
You're talking about the short this past season to Ladd?
Correct.
That is one of the freakiest Ladd McConkey plays you'll see, where he just jukes out it was almost a touchdown anyway.
He didn't score a touchdown.
It was almost he got to the 1 or 2.
But he should have scored, right?
But he should have scored because it should have been over the top, and he should have been walking into the end zone.
Then one more while we're at it. Carson, you want to come on? That's fine too. The Oscar Delp ball in the Auburn game, I think it was at the beginning of the game, and Oscar would still be running right now. So there's some stuff to clean up, but that's
I've got 3 or 4 examples that popped in my head too. He's not a perfect quarterback.
I was just gonna say the other thing is every quarterback misses deep balls, but I do think let's just say Arian and Carson, instead of hitting on 3 of 6, that they hit on 4 of instead of 3 of 6 they hit on 5 of 7. That's a different conversation. Sacks can end games, big plays end games. It's not the.
And those are the things that they've been struggling with the last couple of years.
Of the 120 plays in a football game, usually all games for Georgia do not come down to 6 plays. But the games that they really need to win come down to 6 games. The games against Ohio State, Alabama, Missouri last year, etc. Maybe Clemson this coming season, we'll see. But it comes down to Christopher Smith. It comes down to, Keely Ringo. It comes down to, against Ohio State, it was Arian Smith. Against, but against LSU in the SEC championship game, I guess you could say Christopher Smith again. But that game was probably, Georgia's probably going to win that game no matter what. So it is about making as many of those 6 plays that matter. It's about making at least 4 of them go your way. And maybe in Georgia's case it's just 3, Ryan, because they're so, good and dominant, which is what I want to get back to practice, which is what you get to see whenever you go out there. I mean, it's all there, for lack of a better term. They've got everything they need.
Yeah, look, I mean, they're competing for national championships without impressive sack numbers, without hitting some of those big plays and all that. So we're talking about the little things, the marginal things that make a program elite. So they're teetering around that already. As far as, other things from today, you brought up Jared Wilson. Kirby sang his praises, talking about how he can outrun some of these tight ends and and defensive backs that Georgia
He
has.
cannot run out. He
Yeah,
cannot
he's not
outrun the
outrunning. I
defensive
don't
back.
think you're outrunning Dalen Everett or Julian Humphrey or Malachi Starks. I just don't
No.
think that that's. Yeah, but look,
Tight
another
ends.
guy that said he's
I look, Ryan. Tight ends, I find hard to believe, but I'm going to give Kirby the benefit of the doubt. The defensive back, the only defensive back that Wilson is outrunning is Kirby Smart.
yeah, yeah, that's
Kirby, you
uh,
want to come on and refute that? You can do that.
yeah.
I don't think people our age should be running that fast though. But go ahead.
But I don't think he's outrunning Lawson Lucky, who he flashes definitely in these moments and drills. That's an explosive football player that they have. And you wonder, right? Benjamin Urasek, the transfer from Stanford, not here yet, right? Because he's a later transfer. So you don't really see, we can't really see how they're trying to implement him. But Oscar Delp's going to be out there on the field a lot. Oscar Delp talked about it today, how the plan is not going to change. They still want to run a lot of 12 personnel and have a couple of them out there. So Oscar Delp, he's going to be out, whether it's blocking or receiving, he's going to be out there a lot. But, is it going to be Benjamin Urasek or is it going to be Lawson Lucky? Lucky, a guy that was injured last year, his freshman year, in a reserve role anyway. But you can see there towards the end a couple flashes. I just think, again, for what, the third, fourth year in a row, they don't have a ton of elite weapons, but they've got so many different types that they can just do whatever they feel like they need to do in any given game.
Yeah, I mean, you can drown from a spoonful of water, if it's applied the right way. And that's the thing about this group. I, I I agree with you. I mean, I'm looking at these draft boards and JJ McCarthy's going top 15. All I'm thinking is, man, Carson, you telling me Carson Beck's not better than JJ McCarthy? Like, so I think Beck is certainly not certainly. Beck is probably their number one offensive prospect for the NFL draft coming out this coming season, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Probably. But
Unless someone has a really big year and they can change that, but he's
like he's
probably their best offensive prospect.
probably. I mean, let's just see what happens with Green at tackle. But like
If one of the receivers has a really huge year, you can elevate.
I just don't
Receivers
I
are
don't
just the value just goes up and
the
up. I don't know if they have
value,
a guy like
but it's a
that, but
quarterback, right? So anyway, getting back to the point, what they have is they have their trigger man. They can do what they want to do on that. It's very helpful to have a really good point guard. I mean, quarterback, whatever you want to call it, and because he's touching the ball and literally the center and the quarterback touch the ball on literally every single play. Think about the Mississippi State game in 2022 when I don't think they ran it great, did they? Can you remember? It was
weird game,
yeah, it
weird,
was a weird game, which is
weird
getting to my
special
point.
team stuff.
Here's my point. Like the game shouldn't have even been close at the half, but you had that punt return for a touchdown, which everything went wrong on that play. Okay, which is how punt returns turn into touchdowns. But then you had Darnell doing his part. You had Ladd doing his
I
part
think Ladd was like a long end around type of play,
for
right?
sure, but he doesn't make that play without Darnell. So
No.
it's the collective pieces of your portfolio that are pushing you to where you want to go. It's not, oh, I have this one thing. If it's one thing, you can stop it, Caleb Williams. So, that's the thing. Georgia, in my view, is equipped to attack everyone. Now, I do think Ohio State is, for me, Ohio State probably then Texas, but does Ohio State have the defense you need to stop Georgia? I think the answer to that is more yes than it has been in the past. Do they have the quarterback that they have had in the past? The answer to that is certainly no. So it's everything all at once, and it's all there, and you've got a good play caller. People hate Mike Bobo for what reasons I have no idea. I could not possibly have stolen that many girlfriends in college. He didn't. So the last 2 years he's been the offensive coordinator at Georgia. They've averaged 40 points a game if I'm not mistaken or more. So he's doing fine. It's all there defensively. Yeah, I mean, I'm slightly concerned about the front. Where am I wrong?
I mean, I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I think it's young, and
Well,
that's something
the
Kirby talked about
linebackers
a lot
are.
today. The linebackers are young. The defensive line's not when you have Nazir Stackhouse and Warren Brinson. And
Yeah,
yeah,
Stackhouse and Brinson, like it's they are extremely solid. But is there a spectacular player on the front?
I don't know. Is it
Right?
Michael Williams? People
Could
want
be.
it to be Michael Williams, but now he's going to be experimenting with moving kind of more down on the line and being in a stand-up position. But Michael Williams is another guy that could end up being a big draft prospect for them, obviously on the defensive
For
side. But
sure.
yeah. So if he has even a Trayvon Walker type of year, which wasn't statistically crazy, but he needs to be impactful because the fact of the matter is they just don't have a stacked front seven the way that they've had in the past. And so people like Mike Williams need to have a bigger impact because it needs to be supplemented one way or the other. I don't know. I think that they have a lot of talent, and I think that's your biggest question. I think defense has more. I don't know if we know who the starting safety is yet next to Malachi Starks. And I didn't see anything today that helped me figure that out. So cornerbacks, from what I could tell, I mean, they're still operating with the two juniors,
Right.
Julian Humphrey and Dalen Everett. And I wouldn't expect anything else, to be honest, unless someone else just comes in there
Well,
and takes one of those jobs. But
you got the
that's another good
freshman
thing
from
out there.
IMG who could come in and but we'll
He,
just see.
yeah, I had something to say about him. That he had a hard time during that halfback toss drill we were talking about. Got ran over by multiple guys,
Well, it's okay to
but
get run. It's
multiple
okay to
freshmen had moments today.
it's okay to get your ass whipped as
Yeah,
long as the other person is tackled. I mean,
yeah.
like it doesn't matter what happens or how bad you look as long as the person goes on the ground before you need them to go on the ground. That's always been my. I mean, tackling sucks.
Well,
I
those guys weren't on the ground afterwards, so
I don't like. These people like they're like, man, I used to love being physical and all this stuff, and man, nobody that I knew liked tackling other people. Like it's not a lot of fun because there's a lot of contact, and you don't know how you're going to end up on the ground, and like you got to have a little bit of crazy in you to want to go up and tackle somebody bigger than you. I mean, Kendall Milton, Derrick Henry, Branson Robinson. I mean, just think about these backs now. You got Branson Robinson, Roderick Robinson. Those are bigger backs. Certainly Branson is. ETN, how was he
no,
today?
Roderick's bigger than Branson.
Well, I said they're bigger backs. I
Yeah,
don't know what
yeah.
I said, but that's what I was trying to say.
Oh yeah. Well, that's just what you see on display today. You see Roderick who's 6 feet. Well, I don't know what his weight is,
Right.
230,
Yeah.
just running over people. But another point, I was watching the quarterbacks more today. First time I really paid attention and watched Ryan Puglisi throw the football, and the zip is there. It looks a lot like Carson Beck. He's got a tighter throwing motion, a quicker one than Gunnar Stockton. There's more zip on the balls, but then you see him make mistakes and Kirby getting onto him, and you can see him getting flustered, and you see an 18-year-old having to go through that. Right?
Right.
They should be in high school.
Well, here's the thing, because I was looking through some pictures today of Buford at Grayson. You were not at that game with me, I don't think. It was freezing. And, Puglisi, some of the stuff that should help him be successful as a quarterback at Georgia is what I'm concerned about for Dylan Raiola at Nebraska. Multiple schools for Dylan. Switching right at the end is probably not a great sign to me for a quarterback. For other positions, it's a little bit different. Puglisi committed to Georgia. He was there for it the whole time. I think that we will see what it's like for him to deal with mentally. That is as much a part of playing quarterback as anything is what happens when something bad happens. You throw a pick six like DJ Shockley did against Tennessee up there in 05. And then, are you cool with just coming right back out and slinging it? The competition, everybody knows that Carson's the starter. I think it's really good now that Puglisi and Gunnar Stockton get the ability to size one another up because you're right. Gunner's motion is longer, which is not ever necessarily ideal, but Gunner brings different things to the table than other guys. He did not bring different things to the table than Brock Vandagriff. Now listen, Brock Vandagriff is probably going to help Kentucky. I don't know if he will at the start of the season. I don't know. But Brock is a very good player. Puglisi and Gunner, their time will come. But right now, every single practice matters for these guys, and that's why you see Kirby getting on to them. I don't have any problem with hard coaching. I don't. I don't
Well,
see any other way
you
to do it.
can't. You can't if you want to play at Georgia because that's.
Anywhere.
It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's Todd Hartley. It doesn't matter if it's James
They
Cole.
go, dude. Yeah, they go
It doesn't
hard.
matter if it's Kirby. I mean, it's
Christian.
nonstop. It's constant correction, constant.
But I mean,
That's how it
where you
should
put
be,
your
right?
hand, where you put your hand, and your feet, your foot placement, all that stuff matters in sports. And like, if you're not doing every single
Yeah.
detail right in a practice in the spring, you are not going to do it right in the fall if that continues. You're just not going to. How many times have you and I talked about stuff we got to do? Like, did you know how to do it the first year? I don't think you did. Remember, tell the story of the Clemson game and what happened to you when you were photographing that game. It's a very quick story.
Which I mean, just that it was in manual focus. Is
It
that what
was
you're
in
talking about?
manual focus. So
Still
Ryan
got the
was.
shot.
This was, huh?
Still got the
Yeah,
shot
you still got the shot the wrong way. Only
for like 8 weeks.
exactly. We have cameras and they're all automatic. So if you do the right thing, if you press the right buttons, the image will correct itself. It will focus. Ryan was out there like it was 1983, rolling the shutter. I mean, I don't even know what he was doing,
That's what I
but
was doing.
rolling it.
I
Yeah,
was just rolling the shutter for like two
that's
and a
a
half
very
months.
hard way to shoot. And so once you stop doing that, you got images like the Ohio State game, like stuff like that. So it is about doing stuff the right way every single time from the start. And that's what Puglisi, probably Malachi Starr, all those guys, that are younger, it doesn't matter. You got to do it the right way. It will add up for you or against you, and that's why these practices are so important.
Yeah, they are, and it's after every single rep, the hand placement, like exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're a
Hand
senior,
play.
a junior, a freshman. Every single rep, these guys are getting corrected. It's always criticism, right? They get praised when it's good, but it's almost always a criticism because they want it to get better and they want it to get better, even if it's close to perfect. I mean, Dalen Everett, right? Every single time after he was finishing a drill, I couldn't tell which coach it was, but he's shown on the hand placement every single time, right here, right here, right here, after every single rep. It didn't matter, it didn't matter how close he was to perfect or not. They were trying to get that little thing corrected each and every time. It's detail oriented. We've talked about that in the past. I watched Kirby a little bit more, him just kind of roaming around today, the way he bounces around. But those assistant coaches, man, they've got to be on fire because, I mean, these are kids and they, some of them, it's like, it's not different than a high school practice. Some of them are cutting up a little bit. And if that happens, they're going to get on to you. So it's closer to a military situation than it is. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, it's just like that.
Well, look, I talk about the hand placement a lot and foot. For us in basketball, it was feet. So where your foot is positioned, and that mattered a lot in terms of could you hedge and could you do everything you needed to do. And I'm sure feet are extremely important in football, but it's hands as well. So it's details in everything. And if you're doing it right every single time, that will you won't even have to think. And that's where I think we're at is. This is 4 things and it's 4 practices into it. That's all. Not a lot more to say, but we'll have more on the site. Make sure you're signing up for the newsletter. If you do, you will be eligible to get the signed Keeley dog instruction. You better do it in the next 48 hours because that's when I'm cutting it off. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.